As I said to my best friend Gabe Newell at the secret Half-Life 3 launch party many years ago, everyone bends the truth from time to time. But what happens when video game developers, publishers and marketers get caught bending the truth while trying to sell you a video game? Well, for one thing, they turn off their Twitter notifications. For another, they end up on this list. Here are 7 lies told to us by PC Games and the people who made them. You know what's not a lie? The love and respect you earn from us at PCGamesN by hitting the like and subscribe buttons below. Remember to hit the bell to get alerts from us when we do something new.
Let's start at number 7 by getting the obvious out of the way. No Man's Sky said it had multiplayer, and then it turned out it didn't. Cool? Cool. Right, number 6. Now let's give Hello Games at least the courtesy of explaining the situation in slightly more detail. No Man's Sky was a mysterious thing right up until launch, and most of the PR work Sean Murray's studio did centred around maintaining a bit of that enigma, while also telling people at least a little bit about what you actually do on all those planets and what's the point and stuff. They were doing that, and at the same time, they were figuring out the answers to those questions for themselves, because game development's a strange thing. Within that dichotomy lies the genesis of every game developer untruth. They want a thing to be in their game, hope it can be done, and sometimes get so excited about it that they tell a journalist it will be there. And so it came to pass that when one such journalist asked Sean Murray, "Will there be multiplayer?" Murray replied, "Yeah."
Will you be able to play with your friends? Yeah.
And then there wasn't. The night before release, Murray tweeted out that it's not a multiplayer game after all. After release, users managed to coordinate their positions on the same planet so that they should have been standing close enough to shake hands. But each intrepid space explorer was met by no one to be seen. Naturally, the community was sympathetic to the complexities of game development and reacted in a level-headed manner, and everything was fine forever. Next. Next!
Peter Molyneux is at number 6, but let's hit the brakes for a second. The man's an industry legend who brought us all manner of strange and wonderful titles for decades. Without Peter Molyneux, we'd be living in a world without Populous, Black and White, Fable, Theme Park or Dungeon Keeper. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a world where I can't take out my daily frustrations on a big old mandrill chained to a temple. So Molyneux deserves a lot of respect. With all that said, he does have a track record of telling the odd porky, doesn't he? There was a time when he told us that knocking into a tree in Fable would drop an acorn, which would itself grow into a tree. Then there was a time he said that after no such thing happened in Fable, that the acorn mechanic would definitely be in Fable 2 and would be central to the story. You know, Fable 2, the game that none of that is true of. But the big one was Goddess. After its successful Kickstarter, Molyneux was primed to revive the God game genre with his small 22 cans indie team. He'd even drummed up interest in the project as early as 2012 with the release of Curiosity, What's Inside the Cube on mobile. AKA, go on, tap the boxes you knobheads, that's it. Whatever lay at the centre of Curiosity was to be, and I quote, life-changing. Exciting stuff, as I'm sure Brad Pitt's character from Seven would attest. Then it turned out that it was actually just being the god of gods in Goddess, and poor old Brian Henderson, who tapped on more boxes than anyone could possibly imagine to earn this life-changing prize, has yet to see the fruits of his toil manifest in the game. Or really, in any way, shape or form at all.
At number 5 is the time Ubisoft said they'd delay the next Assassin's Creed game if it didn't meet standards, then release 2 buggy Assassin's Creed games on the same day. With the trademark scope and scale that comes with the series, it seems a bit mad when you think about it that Ass Creed became an annualised franchise. That time of year again, already. In November 2014, however, Ubisoft gave us 2 games in 1 year. In 1 month. In 1 day. Impossible, I hear you cry. Well, it turns out Assassin's Creed Rogue was able to be completed and released alongside Unity because it borrowed from so many of its predecessors, which is not necessarily a good thing. Meanwhile, Unity was 2014's poster boy for bugs and glitches. The characters losing their entire faces was definitely something that hit multiple headlines when the game was released. That would be bad enough on its own, but only a year before, Ubisoft had stated that they were going to delay the next Assassin's Creed if it wasn't good enough. So does that mean that Unity, and all of its bugs and glitches, was good enough? Yves Guillemot, company CEO, said Assassin's Creed Unity was able to deliver the most beautiful graphics we've ever created. Yeah, looks like it, mate.
There are games that contain little fibs, there are games that contain big fibs, and then there are games like our number 4, Infestation Survivor Stories, the artist formerly known as the War Z. Games that don't so much contain lies as embody them entirely, embracing a lie with every line of code. You see, back in 2012, there were people out there who thought the War Z was an attempt to trick people into thinking they were buying the DayZ standalone. Why did they think that? Because it's an open world zombie survival MMO that looks loads like DayZ, because its name is so similar to DayZ that its developers Hammerpoint eventually had to change it. Because they refer to the initial build as the Foundation release, a term used exactly once before by DayZ's Dean Hall to describe his standalone. So, you know, whatever Hammerpoint's intentions, you can see where those people were coming from. You can also understand the point of view of the people who felt that the features advertised on the War Z's Steam page were still more lies. They felt this because the 100 to 400 square kilometers of the game maps turned out to be about 10 square kilometers by our estimations, and that the 100 player servers had a 50 player max, and because hardcore mode didn't exist. Hammerpoint eventually apologised for misleading customers about those features, by which I mean they didn't apologise at all and sort of suggested it was the player's own stupid fault for misinterpreting the wording of the features. This is why I said we should be nice to Peter Molyneux. Do you see?
I'm contractually obliged to describe number 3 in this feature as shambling its way onto our list, leaving a trail of drool and blood in its wake, because this is video games and YouTube. Hackneyed intro complete, let's talk about Dead Rising 3 being an Xbox One exclusive forever until 6 months after its release. The obligatory whoops rang out at the E3 2013 conference hall when Microsoft announced that Capcom's latest installment of running around near some zombies in a Lego hat at 20 frames per second would be exclusive to the imminent Xbox One. Exclusive. You got that? Read it and weep, everyone else. Except 6 months later, it was announced that Dead Rising 3 was actually a timed exclusive that would be heading to PC after all. And it's not that Capcom are evil or that Microsoft are. It's just an industry trick we're seeing happen increasingly often. And every time it does, the word exclusive sounds a bit more like a funny joke. Coming up next, our exclusive take on one of PC gaming's greatest and least egregious lies.
Time for lie number 2 now, in which Blizzard are hellbent on making us believe that there is no cow level in Diablo 2. They insist that it doesn't exist, and look, they've even made a poster to try and throw us off the scent. Sounds like something a liar would do, TBH. The secret cow level, aka the Moo Moo Farm, is real. What's more, it's full of bipedal cows wielding polearms known as hell bovines. The boss of this level is rather easy to avoid, despite looking like all of the other cows. You know who the Cow King is among all the beef because he's the one just chilling in a fenced enclosure while his army is being minced all around him. To kill him is considered a massive offence. Once he is killed, players cannot go back to the Moo Moo Farm on the same difficulty
ever again.
Excuse me, ever again. If that wasn't frustrating enough, you can only visit this level once you have already completed one of the difficulties, and then you have to go back on the same difficulty to access the portal. So that gives you 3 times to visit the farm, and 3 times to try and get the Cow King's leathers. The Cow King's ghost can be found in Diablo 3, right next to the portal to the pony level, not kidding, and, upon finding him, this angry looking bovine will tell you that there is no cow level in Diablo 2.
There is no cow level. No. Excuse me. Move along.
Proudly occupying number 1 slot, it's Game of the Year editions, the industry ogre. Here's a case study to illustrate my point. 2011 was a good year for gaming, wasn't it? A 365-day period that yielded treasures like Deus Ex Human Revolution, Skyrim, Dark Souls, Portal 2, The Witcher 2, and Batman Arkham City. But there was one title that none of those could even hold a candle to. Dead Island. Famous 2011 Game of the Year, Dead Island. Not content with having told just one massive whopper, Techland doubled down on Dead Island's infamously misleading trailer by going and calling it the Game of the Year, in a release that included a couple of extra DLC bits. If it wasn't already head and shoulders above Dark Souls and Skyrim before, that extra character, map and weapon blueprint will really seal it, lads. And that's the problem with Game of the Year editions. As long as someone, somewhere out in the world, awarded it a fancy badge, any game is allowed to go running their mouth all around town about how great they are and present itself in fancy GOTY regalia. It's a marketing practice so misleading and absurd you can almost feel the patronising hand patting you on the head as you read the words, Game of the Year. For shame, games industry. For shame.
It's hard to trust anyone these days, isn't it? Look at all these lies we've had to dodge our way through over the years. The only people you can trust is PCGamesN. We won't lie to you, ever. We're too busy playing our review copies of Half-Life 3 for that. For more truth bombs and honesty, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell on your way out.